Hello and welcome to this exploring session, the continuation of our exploration of Enough is as Good as a Feast by William Wager. The fourth of his plays that we have done, and it's the last that we are going to be doing, because this is it. We will have done our complete survey of his oeuvre, as it were. Can he be an oeuvre? I can't remember. Oeuvre. Anyway, if you want to check out some of his other plays, there will be lists of playlists on the podcast and on YouTube channel to find those works, and we may come back to him later on with the elements of this play and other plays that are available. We have got a little over halfway through this play. We've got to the point where the worldly man who is being tempted away from living his life with just enough, and enough, his constant companion, has been sent packing, or gone off in a huff, perhaps is a better way of saying it. I'm not sure precisely which one that was. And worldly man is left with covetousness and precipitation. So he's in bad company. That's where we left it last time. And to continue the journey, we are continuing almost with the doubling scheme that's on the front of the printed page. It's not quite the same because we don't quite have enough actors in the room to do it. So they're going to be, unusually for our reading sessions, mostly continuing with parts that they've had before, or logical parts that the original actors would have had. So today, reading Hireling, Ignorance, and Satan is...
Hello, my name is Sascha Cooper and I'm a professional actress in Brighton in the UK, and for once I don't have a distraction problem.
And reading today Covetousness and grabbing from somebody else the part of Contentation is...
Hello, my name is Valentina and I am an Italian actor and voiceover artist in London.
And today reading Enough, Servant, Prophet and Rest is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a historian and I'm in Yorkshire.
And today reading Tenant, God's Plague and Physician is...
Hi, I'm Tamara. This is Sammy. He may stay or he may leave. I am an actor. I am usually based in London, but currently in Germany with a cat.
And sans cat, but reading Worldly Man and, rather confusingly, Heavenly Man, who are very distinct, different people, is...
Hi, Alan Scott, based in Suffolk.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I don't have a cat either, but a dog may be heard at some point barking in the background. That's entirely possible. So that's as close to a bonus animal as you're going to get from me. I'm the host and general overseer, trying to keep everything moving forward. I'll be reading stage directions. So we've got to the point where Enough has been booted off, as it were, from the worldly man's view of the universe. And the worldly man is left with covetous and precipitation. So, worldly man, if you would pick up the narrative.
Marry, farewell, adieu to the devil. Body of me, he would make me his drivel.
You may see what a trusty friend he is.
A beggarly knave, I warrant you by the bliss. And even so he and they went about me to make. Within a while, I should have gone to the hedge for a stake.
Oh, I forgot to give out Precipitation. I apologise. Tamara, if you could continue reading Precipitation. My bad.
I warrant you that you should have proved shortly. They would not have left you one groat nor penny. I avail you would tarry with them any time or season. You're old enough, I trow, to be ruled by reason.
A shame take them all. I've spent on them £20 that I had of money and of my own good ground. I'm ashamed of myself, so God me save, because I have sold almost all that I ever I have. My friends and companions when I go in the street, so God help me, I'm shamed with them to meet.
Passion of me, 'twas time to look about. They would quite have undone you, or else, without doubt. But I trow, if you will be ruled by me, what I will do for you, or ere it be long you shall see. 1,000, Thousand ways I can invent to fetch in double as much as you have spent.
Be ruled by you? Yes, here I do you both embrace. It's my own mind to follow all my life's space. For I tell you plain, I am weary of their school.
It is time for you, else they would have made you a fool.
I perceive no less, indeed, by the talk of reason. But so it should have come to a pass in season.
And do you, my brother, reason perfectly know?
Yea, and with him one called agility I know, trow. Reason came to me, and mihi flectere mentum, he said, sola solet rax dux fix sophon est. It cannot be denied, to nature and reason he doth open injury, which of other men counsel doth seek. God hath given men reason, and their wits policy, to forsake that is ill, and to take that he doth like.
And believe you not these words to be very true?
Yes, and I've thought on them 20 times since I tell you. Oh, sirs, methinks if I had money and treasure again, faith, I would be a lively lad, I tell you plain. Heavenly man, quoth he, let them be heavenly for me. The best heaven is me, thinks is for rich for to be.
In faith, it shall cost me and my friends a fall, but you shall be twice as rich as you were before. We will do it in spite of them, even with all, though we do hundreds wrong therefore. I have set some aloft in a high place, which had rather die, I dare well say, than 1 inch of their state should fall or abase, but rather to climb up higher if they may. Well, of this world I rule the whole state. Yea, faith, I govern all laws, rights, and orders. I, at my pleasure, raise war, strife, and debate, and again I make peace in all coasts and borders. Nay, yet a much more marvel than that, behold, see you this little pretty hand? This is an arm of steel, for it overthroweth flat the strongest walls and towers in a whole land. Power I have laws to alter and make, and all laws made are guided by me. All that is done wholly for my sake. What strength I have by this you may see. Moreover, I have in this little hand the hearts of all men and women upon earth. I rule them both by sea and by land. Plenty I make, and I make also death. Woe! It is wonderful that is done by policy. While you live, take heed, strive not against policy. The best of them are all glad of policy. Yea, in Westminster Hall they use much policy.
Prudentia nost omnia, saith the noble man Tully. Policy knoweth all things, both good and ill truly. Oh, policy, what meant I from reason and thee to stray? Never will I forsake you, nor yours after this day. Oh, help me, policy, help me to some money, whose taste I love better than the taste of honey.
Sith worthy policy you have entertained, now none of his instruments must be disdained.
Disdained? No, faith, let him teach me what he will, and I will do it, if it were my own father to kill.
Oh, say you so? By the mass, give me your hand. Come, go with me. Let us no longer idle stand.
And they go out all three together and make you ready straightways. So who needs to do a costume change? Get on with it now, because you probably don't have much time. I do love it when scripts put that in. I really liked Covetous's speech there. There's something nicely evil about that. It's a nice evil person's speech about power. And he's making his boast. I mean, that's the sort of thing that goes back as a convention of something. But he's doing it to sort of seduce the worldly man. Look at how powerful you can be if you follow policy. I apologise for that rhyme. No regrets. And worldly man's regrets are like giving everything away. I mean, there's lots in that I really liked. Thoughts?
This has got to be put on as a modern political drama with lookalikes for half the people in it. I mean, I'm not quite sure who Zuckerman is going to play, but I mean, you've got everybody in the current political, either American or British, or I imagine other countries too.
Mm. Yes, there's something very neoliberal about the covetousness.
Yeah, totally.
I really like that little bit. It just felt to me very much like the fox and the cat in Pinocchio.
Oh yes, that really twisted partnership. I know what you mean.
Because Precipitation isn't doing a lot, but he's just quietly helping along as well. It's the fact you've got two people working, and Worldly Man is being pulled in. He's not being, he sees the advantages of all these things. Alan.
Side issue, couple of Latin tags in there which a gloss on will be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So I hit them and went, okay, I'll try and do the words, but I've got absolutely no idea what they mean.
Which is a fair point. Did the dialogue repeat any of those?
I think it did.
Yeah, I think the second one, I think it did.
Yeah, the Tully.
The first one, I don't think it.
Where's the first?
Reason came to me, and mihi flectere mentum.
Yeah.
He said, "Sola solet ratio dux fida sophoon est." It cannot be denied.
Doesn't seem to translate in the following bit.
No. Okay. Well, I don't think at this precise second in time, but gloss for that.
Flectere is not a verb I know.
Yeah, well, there might also be a typo in there. That's the problem with Latin; it's a bugger.
Yeah.
I can modernise English very efficiently.
Yeah.
Most of it looks right, but yes, I'm not quite sure. My Latin is still not good enough, so I would not dare to comment. Any additional thoughts?
I don't know whether there's any carryover into modern Italian that Valentina could help us with on those.
Is not quite so similar. I mean, yeah.
I think this is job for future us. I think we will come back to that at some point. Any additional thoughts about the scene, characters, where it's going? Anything extra to add before we move forward? Silence he hears. So let's fill that silence with some words. Heavenly Man appears. He's only going to make a little speech and then go away again, which is lucky because it's played by the same person as Worldly Man. Wouldn't be in the original doubling, but because they talk to each other. But here we take the advantage. Go Heavenly Man.
Oh, how hard a thing and difficult it is for them that in their riches do trust, to enter into the kingdom of heaven or bliss, the world of our Saviour. To be true, grant we must. 'Tis as easy for a camel through a needle's eye to thrust, as him that on riches hath fixed his mind, the way to eternal salvation to find. Example hereof you see with your eyes, of the worldly man given to vain pleasure. He promised, you heard, from sin to arise, and said he would not love neither money nor treasure, but as he ought to love it, that in a due measure, but behold how quickly his promise he hath broke, whereby he kindleth God's wrath against him to smoke. For now hath he entertained him temerity, precipitation, and heady inconsideration. These cause him to work on all things headily, and covet to be bad in reputation. Then covetousness disguised himself in such fashion, that as Seneca said, doth good to no man, but hurt a most to himself, as time shall prove when.
And he exits having told us what we already know because we were there. It feels very much like we need to bridge between the two scenes, and let's just have the Heavenly Man reiterate the what's just happened, because it doesn't seem there's nothing new there.
Could we double with prologue? possibly?
There is an official doubling, but I can't remember off the top of my head what it is. Heavenly Man is doubled with the prologue in the original printed interpretation. I don't think that actual doubling scheme works. I think there's a different one. But yeah, anyone can double that prologue. But Heavenly Man and Worldly Man are the two I wouldn't. Just simply because they almost immediately come on stage at the beginning. So I think that's just not true. Any other cast member would be a better prologue.
The verse scheme seems to be quite different with that speech to previous ones. It doesn't flow in anything like as good a way as some of the other bits.
Well, somebody said the Tenant has got to get his Tenant gear on, and he's only just gone off as Precipitation or something. So we've got to have a speech. For heaven's sake, somebody write something. Who's free to speak it?
I'm not going to comment on the quality of or the regularity of the verse at this time. It might be fine, and that was just the first read. It is structural. It's clearly structural. This speech is here to bridge that. Helen's exactly right on that point. Yeah. Whether that means that led to a qualitative failure in verse is another matter.
the voice I would have loved to have done it in, if I could manage it, would have been Alan Bennett's vicar voice.
Yeah, I can see that. Heavenly Man. That's obviously all our ideas of heaven. Possibly. We'll see. Okay, let's move on before we go down a disturbing track. So Heavenly Man has exited, and now we have the entrance of the old man Tenant. And once again, we're going to get some dialogue written in yokel, but here it actually specifies what yokel it is, and speak Cotswold speech. So for once, we have a geographical locality for you, the Cotswolds. Off you go, Tamara.
Why? Okay. This is not even going to be West Country because I can't do it. Okay. Alas, alas, to whom should I make my moan? For ever and a day, sham quite undone. My landlord is so covetous as the devil of hell, except she'll give him such a shameful rent, as cham not able, away I must incontinent. Chai dwelt there this 36 year, yea, these 40, I may tell you well near. And I'm going slightly Irish there. And by Our Lady, that to be enough round, well now I must give him even as much more. Or else, ich must void the next quarter or before. Oh, masters, is not this even a lamentable thing? To see how landlords their poor tenants do wring. And they are not so covetous to ask nother, I believe, but a sort of fools are as ready to give, and especially strangers, ye a shameful sort, are placed now in England, and that in every port, that we our wives and children no houses can get, wherein we may live, such price on them is set. Chat thought a while ago my landlord would not have done thus, for he said he would be a heavenly man, I was. But so the devil is as heavenly as he, 3 times worse than he was before, as far as I can see.
Now, for the listeners at home, Tamara hasn't been having a stroke. It's fine. The dialogue is written deliberately unhelpfully, or deliberately helpfully to give you the accent. So instead of S's, you're getting z. You've got ich instead of I. You've got chav instead of, so I have is now chav. And you've got all sorts of things. Giving you a sense, F's have turned to V's. Vools. They're all vools. So to give you an impression of a poor tenant farmer who's just having all his rents increased by someone who's perhaps thinking more of himself. I wonder who that could be. How are we finding the tenant?
Be difficult not to play him as outright comic character, because he's actually making a serious point.
I mean, he's Jethro Larkin, isn't he?
Yeah.
Or whatever his name was, I don't know.
Standard mummer's head.
Yeah, but it's nice that the
Dorsetshire.
Yeah, but here it does actually specify the Cotswolds, so or Cotteswold.
Where are the Cotteswolds? The Cotswolds. I've never worked that out.
Oxfordshire.
Isn't that like a really posh area though?
It might be today.
Where posh people go to like.
It's the area, basically Oxford across towards Gloucester.
Oh, that area.
So just far away enough from London to seem like it's rural as hell.
Think Midsummer Murders.
Yeah.
Just posh.
Yeah, again, you're confusing today because of chocolate box villages that survive. People then moved there. Doesn't mean that's how it always was.
Cameron.
Yeah.
My accent couldn't decide if it was Irish or West Country because I haven't done that in a while. So.
Well, you wouldn't worry about that. That's fine. As long as it's all a bit, you'll be fine.
It could work actually extremely well in Irish.
Yeah, I think anything not RP, basically. You could choose one and it'll probably just about work.
Anything rhotic.
Basically, yes. I do apologise for anyone with an authentic regional accent. We are so sorry. Okay, so that was the tenant who's coming on and complaining. They are joined by Enter Poorly Servant.
Body o' me, this'd make a man to swear. Shame take and marry that ever they came there. Nay, by Giss, I thought he would not be heavenly long, for that his nature were clean contrary and wrong. Yonder are such a sort of rutterkins, lively and jolly, that all that can be gotten is little enough for their belly. So we work, we labour, that night and day, yet we can scant have meat and drink, the truth to say, and that which we have is ill enough for dogs, and we are served with all like many a hogs.
What? Servant, I pray thee, what news with thee?
By my truth, Father Tenant, even as ye see, kept like no man's servant, but rather like a slave, that I am weary of my life, I tell you, so God me save. My master taketh on like the devil of hell. There was never one so hasty, cruel and fell, but so covetous. Lord, Lord, you will not believe. I think all his mind and study to bribery doth give.
Oh, I wonder who these people could be talking about. Enter Hireling.
Now a pestilence take him, vile, cankered churl. He is neither good to man, woman, boy, or girl. Is this the heavenly man? A shame take him else. Body of me, in all wickedness he now excels. And if a thing come in his head, be it good or ill, without all wit or reason, do it he will. But so covetous, Lord, I think, if he might choose, the dropping of his nose he would not lose. Every week truly, nay then every day, he must have account how many eggs his hens lay. Why? There was never such a miser as he, that the plague cut the throat of him for me. I have wrought for him this half year by the week, and now my work is done. My money is to seek. If I and all mine should starve for money, of him I dare say I should not get 1 penny. A shame take him. how well the scripture of him is weighed, which saith, sleep not till the hireling thou hast paid.
I see well that I complain not of him alone, but others as well as I have good cause to moan. Well, servant, weeping will not help this gear, but God will help him for it, I do not fear.
I told you, Hireling, how you should be served.
What, servant? Thou lookest as though thou wast starved.
He looketh as lustily, freshly, and as well as all the servants that with his master do dwell.
His master? Why, he is no better than a thief, for so that he may have it, he cares not who suffer grief.
Nay, by the mass, that words is but too true, so that his riches increaseth, he careth not to rue.
I know the occasion of all this gear, but I would not for £20 it should come to his ear. He saith that he will never leave his extortion, till of riches he have got an innumerable portion. He will build, plant, set, sow, till such a frame of him abroad there grow, that there is none like him in all the country. And so by that means he shall come to authority.
But lightly those that come to authority after that rate do end their lives in some miserable and unhappy state.
Thou fool, saith Christ, this night will I fetch thy soul fro thee, and then who shall have the things that thine be? Well, let him alone. I hope all will prove for the best. Even as he leadeth his life, so shall he find rest.
Peace, peace, for God's sake! Look where Stuart comes. Body o' me, sirs, which way shall I run?
And he runs out as enter Covetousness, presumably disguised as steward. So that's an interesting position for him to have taken. Covetousness speaks.
What speed you? What mean you? Would you speak with me?
Yea, sir, even to desire your worship, my friend for to be. I have a certain petition to your mastership to move, and it desire you to be my friend in it for God's love.
What is the matter? Let me know it at once. I have somewhat else to do than here to thread the stones.
By my truth, sir, I beseech you for me to speak a good word to your good master and my landlord. I have dwelt in his house this 40 years almost, and thereupon I bestowed much money and cost. And now here it must double my rent, or else void out of it, and that incontinent. I beseech you for God's sake on me, take some pity and bone. If I be put out forever, I am undone. Oh, good sir, I know that you may do much.
By my truth, I can do nothing herein, and so God help me, I esteem no such matters worth a pin. But, lady, sir, you have had it a fair season, and a man should make what he can of his own, it is reason. I warrant you there be now that rent will give.
But they shall never thrive on it, and then I believe. I know what he may do with the house and ground. He may chance to find rent enough of £1.
Well, care not you for that, if you be a wise man. You were best to get one better cheap where you can, for I know that so much for it have he may, yea, if it is stood empty even this present day.
Well, sir, yet methinks there should be a conscience. I think God hateth such covetous, sir, by your patience.
Thou art a foolish fellow, here of me to complain, for I meddle with no such matters, I tell you plain.
Oh, good gentleman, God save your life, I pray to our Lord. May I be so bold to speak with you, gentlemen, one word?
Whether the devil wilt thou? Into mouth, methink, for God's amends, how he smells all of drink.
Nay, by my truth, sir, I drink none other drink today, but a little fleet milk mingled with whey. For so God help me, if for drink or meat I should die, I have not one farthing, any therewith to buy, and by my truth, sir, this is my suit at this time. I served your maester in making brick and lime, half a year together, not missing one day. And by my truth, all my wages is yet for to pay, and if it please you, Herod, to show me some pleasure, the same to my power with like I will measure.
Body of me, what a beggarly knave is here! Why canst thou not forbear thy money 1 year?
No, by my truth, sir, for I have no lands, no nothing to live upon, but only my hands. I beseech you, be good to me.
Why, I meddle not with such things, you dost know.
Yes, sir, you are Maester Steward, I trow.
No faith, I am but Master Receiver. I take in all, but by guess I am no payer.
Your maester have a great sort of receivers indeed, but not one to pay the hireling his true need.
And at which point enter bravely worldly man, but we'll just briefly pause there. It's really interesting the different approaches here to try and get money out of the people who owe it you.
Yeah.
We've got the tenant who goes in for the attack, and then we've got the hireling who does mercy sir, let me, and is doing the full wheedle. And I think Covetousness' reply could really come from the Department of Social Services, really, couldn't it? Can you not forbear thy money 1 year? Really? Do you have to ask for universal credit and get it immediately? No.
Yeah,
We'll just put a few months in between so that you can rack up some debts. That'll be great. That's a good system, isn't it? It's feeling more modern every minute. Thoughts?
Well, I just mostly want to take a second to apologize for whatever my accent is doing. I have no control.
That's right. It's the nature of how it's written.
And also apologies for not recognising that I needed an accent until just now.
It's fine. You sort of segued into it very, very nicely. It was sort of it was good. It was good.
Yeah, I'm not going to apologise for Yorkshire. It wouldn't be in character.
No, absolutely not. I do particularly like the way the hireling's talking about the egg count. He's that miserly. He's going to count every single egg. Yeah. And the servant talking about when he's talking about that he's quite open about this idea. He wants more money, so he has more power. That's the entire function of this, but he's going to lose all his friends along the way. So Rupert Murdoch, and we're doing well this week. Okay.
I mean, we're spoiled for choice for modern instances, aren't we?
Yeah, we really are. Alan.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm seeing Covetousness as being a very tall, thin man in a three-piece suit.
I don't know. For some reason, he reminds me of the guy who, drove as an eye test.
Oh, yeah, Cummings.
Oh God. Yes, I mean, any one of the vices you could stick Cummings in for, couldn't you?
For those in the future, these are all political references to do with topical things happening in the United Kingdom, Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So
somebody beyond the apocalypse is going to watch this.
Yes, that used to be known as. That's what these islands used to be known as. These now separate states that have all entered into a bitter, long-standing conflict. Anyway,
About the Second Civil War.
Yes.
Oh, you mean the Celtic United Kingdoms and Little England?
Yes, that's what I think. We should stop now and move forward because I can feel that I don't know the whether getting dislikes and likes on the video matter. Okay.
Any PR is good PR.
It's just a road trip with a difference here.
Yeah. Valentina, any thoughts? I don't know if you're waving or just.
No, just laughing.
Frowning.
Yeah, covetousness as a steward really works well. As it's just no. I receive all the money. I take everything. That's my job. I don't give it away. I don't do that. No, I would never do that.
Yeah, just give him money. It's fine.
No, this is the system. This is the system. Okay, so we now have the entrance of the worldly man, quite different from before. He was strangely attired yesterday. having got in with covetousness, he is now all brave. So he's in bright and wonderful clothing. I think that's a reasonable definition of brave, isn't it? I think we've been here before. I think Thomas of Woodstock had to wear briefly wore brave.
That's right. Yes, he poshed himself up for the coronation or the marriage or something.
And then
Was he referenced as strangely attired as well the rest of the time? I wonder.
Yes, I think he was.
Strangely.
Yeah, I'm wondering.
Yes, because he was plain.
Yes, he's plain Thomas.
Plain Thomas, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
I just wonder if that's in the stage direction. That's a thought. I'm not suggesting for a second there's an authorship issue here, but the idea and the terminology seems to make maybe there's a through line logic.
But I mean, the strangeness is that it isn't suited to his rank.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so bravely attired, worldly man enters unto this scene of contention.
What worthy policy? What makes you here today?
About your affairs, I have business this way. And behold, sir, as I travelled the street, with these two fellows I chanced for to meet, who told me that they had an earnest suit to you, one for his house that he dwelleth in now, wherein he saith you go about to do him much wrong, for he saith that he hath dwelt in it very long. The other said you owe him a piece of money, he wrote with you half a year and had never a penny, and thus they took on with me before you did come, and now have I showed you the whole circumstances, and some.
Marry, hang them villains. I have naught to do but to stand and reason matters with them two. Here, you tenant, in few words you know my mind. According as I have told you, so you shall be fined. Other provide money your lease to renew, or else you shall out incontinent. This is true.
Oh, landlord, methinks this is too much extremity. Alas, upon mine age, take you some pity. I'm old and have many children and much charge. I trust, landlord, it shall vind you better at large.
I cannot tell you what I should do more, believe me. Many landlords would not do as I do by thee, but I am content for money you should have had before another. I can do no more for thee if thou wert my brother.
Thou must be answered, father, there is no remedy. By Saint Anne, methink he speaketh very reasonably.
This reasonable speaking cometh from an unreasonable mind. Woe be to him that to such inconveniences shall a man bind.
If it please you, sir, help me to my money if you may.
No, by my faith, sir, you'll get it not today. You shall tarry my leisure. I will pay you when I see cause.
You are happy, sir, in your lands you have valors. But by guess, if I had anything that would do you pleasure, you should have it when you would and not tarry my leisure. Well, I believe verily that the prayers of the poor and his cry shall ascend into the ears of the Lord God on high, and he will plague all that righteousness withstand, and as the prophet saith, root their posterity out of the land.
Well, hireling, let us depart this place. It prevaileth not us of him to crave any grace.
No more shall it prevail him, the scripture saith indeed, to ask mercy of the Lord when he standeth in need.
And they exit by Hireling and Tenant, who are basically sort of going, well, in the real world, the rich can buy the laws because they can afford to pay for it, whereas nobody else can. But hopefully, God will see them right because nobody else will. That's as good as good because worldly man's just going, no, you can't pay me. I'm going to evict you. To the poor tenant, and the hireling just go, well, sing for your money. You hire a lawyer, get it off me.
Pretty nasty, actually. And if you think about it, it's, again, if we're following along the modern sort of context to bring to this play, if we bring it up to date, I mean, it not only highlights a lot of corruption that went on back then, when power was more of an issue. Today, we've still got people like the landlord who literally do exploit vulnerable people. So I think actually, this whole scene is so beautifully constructed. It's so relevant today, even. I think the way that it's written, I think so far from the plays I've read for you guys, it's actually the most easily up to date that we can actually bring a lot of comparisons that I've personally found so far. I don't know about anybody else on today, but it's certainly striking a chord at the moment, put it that way.
We have collected quite a few of these sort of I say little abuses, but abuses of this sort where, those with money and power are able to fleece those below them. We've obviously we've had people being caught up with usury as well, having to sell their cow, and pawn their wives' best clothing. The cries of no cow rattle through the ages, we've had people in a pamphlet that Sascha were you with when we read the horse pamphlet?
Yes.
Which was very much.
I remember that.
Which was all about effectively sex for rent, and again abuses by landlords there. And the thing is, a lot of these things have become more prevalent in the last 20 years. Or so, or certainly the last 10 years or so, where power of landlords to just keep moving people on has got, and the quality of accommodation getting worse and worse and worse. So this really does speak. I think Sascha's absolutely right on that. We've also got not only the tenant, we've also got the hireling, so casual labour, 0-hour contracts. Yeah. Who just can't get their money, and probably don't have enough to live on anyway, as well as the servant of the household who doesn't even attempt. He just runs away and does not want to be seen with these other people. He's not even going to engage because he knows the system is rigged, and all they've got is God, which to fall back on. Alan.
The only thing that's changed between that time and this is the people with the faith that a God, that there will be a divine judgment.
Yes, we don't really have that in a secular society. Some societies still do, but by and large, less so now.
Especially in Brighton, that's been classed as the most godless city in the UK, apparently.
Huzzah! Excellent place to settle, ladies and gentlemen.
House prices are too high.
Yes. That's why the pure massing of the godless there, just coming over here, forcing up our house prices. Anyway,
isn't it the Greek one? They're saying by hove.
Yes, I'm moving on. Is there any additional thoughts on that scene and where we are, or before we move forward?
Star Chamber was originally put in place in order to prevent abuses of this kind. Well, some of the abuses of this kind, but by this time it had rather moved on.
Yes.
Taken over by the bosses.
Mission
to an extent.
Okay, so having effectively had the god called in to sort them out, Worldly Man and Covetousness are left alone on stage to be quite merry about their money gathering activities. So go, Worldly Man.
I must laugh, so God me save, to see what sort of suitors nowadays we have.
I warrant you, if you will be ruled by reason and policy, you shall have all the world to sue to you shortly.
A common saying, the fox fareth the better and not the worse, when that the good wife doth him ban and curse. So what care I though to curse me the people do not cease, as long as by them my riches doth increase. A policy, how glorious my buildings do shine, no gentleman's in the country like unto mine. Sirrah, what shall I do? I must make my barns more great, for I have not room enough to lay in my rye and wheat.
Set men a work with it as soon as you can. If you lack room and make more, you may then.
I guess I will. They shall in hand tomorrow. I thank you, policy. I need nothing to borrow. Sirrah, that little tenement that by my house doth stand, I would I could get that too, even out of hand. I want a little buttery to lay in my drink, and that would serve the term handsomely, I think. And to say the truth, it is not meet that such a beggar as he should dwell so near under the nose of me.
Who the devil put that into your mind?
Marry, even that did reason my trusty friend.
I have been about it myself all this week, ready with all the laws for to the lay doth seek. We will have it, I warrant you, by hook or by crook. Tush, I warrant you, for such odd ends daily we look.
And there is the voice of a prophet without.
O thou earth, 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 hear the word of the Lord. Know thyself to be no better than clay or dust. Let the worldly man look suddenly about him. See that thy life to God's truth do always accord. For from earth thou camest, and to earth thou must.
What is the matter? Why, what ail thee? Why look you so about?
I heard a terrible noise, surely without doubt, which pronounced the words of the prophet Jeremy, saying, Earth, earth, turn thee speedily.
Why, and are you afraid and amazed at that? I see well you have a heart like a gnat.
That servant that diligently doth fulfill and watcheth at all times for the coming of his master, and doth in the mean season apply his will. Of his master's goods there be no spoil or waster. That servant shall be sure to be a taster of God's blessing and joys everlasting, whereas in all consolation and nothing wanting. But that servant that liveth idly without care, and looketh not diligently upon his office, his master shall come suddenly ere he be aware, and shall minister to him according to justice. The portion of Hippocrates shall be his. Into utter darkness cast him out will he, whereas weeping and gnashing of teeth shall be.
And there is a question here, because it says exit, so the question is maybe the prophet, after the first bit was spoken of, the prophet then comes on and goes for them in a more literal sense. It is not clear. I like the idea that worldly man has a heart like a gnat. I think that's a lovely turn of phrase, which I love. I'm wondering, is that hypocrites without the H, or is that a portion of Oh no, it's Hippocrates. Yes, no, you were right the first time.
Hippocrates. I presumed it was some Greek of whom I have not heard.
Or poison, perhaps, or something, some other word, or some particular unction.
The portion of Hippocrates shall be his. I think Hippocrates must be the person from whom we get the word hypocrite, and that something awful happened to him in hell because he was a hypocrite. Okay, that's what I take the portion of Hippocrates to mean, but on no basis of no reason whatsoever.
Okay, that's one to research, unless anyone here does definitely have an answer to go with. But otherwise, we will research that for a future time. So, yes, this is the point in the play where we're going to get a few of these popping in and outs. And there's part of me that's thinking this play would work really nicely, actually, if it was done in with masks. If only because it would get the doubling, it would make the doubling more extreme. You could do it with a smaller company. But there's part of me thinking with these random appearances that we're going to get quite a few times here, is that a really quite bold face and extreme costuming, you could really turn this around with quite a few people, very few people. I'm not suggesting that's an original practice. That's just how I'm seeing it today. Okay, so the prophet's come on, possibly, and the prophet's gone off again. Covetous and worldly man are still on stage.
Oh, sirrah, merit God's blessing on his heart. Full honestly, he teacheth you, sir, their part.
These be the words of the Holy Scripture. declaring the difference between ye just and unpure. Good Lord, I would know what these words do mean.
Your chaplain can tell you, for he is very well seen.
I pray you, policy, call him to me hither, but look that you come again both together.
Yes, that we will, I warrant, you need not fear. We will be here again, or a horse can lick his ear.
By my truth, methinks I begin to wax sick. In sending away my counsellor, I was somewhat too quick. Well, I will sit me down and say to sleep here, till they into this place again do appear. Oh, my head!
Enter God's plague, and stand behind him a while before he speak. So creepy, creepy, creepy. Lovely.
It is even I that upon thee doth blow, filling thee with plagues and sundry disease. What I am, indeed, I will learn thee to know, for I'm not afraid thee to displease. Thou shalt depart from thy house and land, thy wife and children beggars thou shalt leave. Thy life thou shalt lose even out of hand, and after death thy just reward receive. Thy ill-gotten goods shall not thee deliver, thine costly buildings shall nothing prevail, thy odours, thy sweet smells, and thou shalt perish together. Thy rings, thy bracelets, and gold chains shall fall. Strangers, and those whom thou didst never know, shall possess that which by fraud thou hast got. Thy seed from off thy ground God will overthrow, because at his prophet's preaching thou amendest not. Thou sleepest in death, as the prophet David doth say, out of which sleep when thou shalt awake, thou shalt perceive thou must needs away, and that on thee God will no mercy take. I am the plague of God properly called, which cometh on the wicked suddenly. I go through all towns and cities strongly walled, striking to death, and that without all mercy. Here thou wicked, covetous person I do strike, which once on the plough hadst taken hold, but willingly again thou rannest in the dike. Therefore thy plague shall be doubled sevenfold.
And now we have a slightly confusing stage. Go out and stand at the door. I'm assuming it is God's plague goes out and ignorance comes in standing at the door. That is how I'm going to read it for the moment. Any disagreements will be noted. We will be here again ere a horse can lick his ear. That's a nice saying. I like that. So God's plague, nothing good there. God, displeased. Bad
It's
things.
John Laurie again.
Well, actually, it was a bit of low at the beginning. It was it is even I. So yes, and it's just the worldly man sort of falling down sick. How cognizant is he of what's the plague speaking above him? Is he cognizant of this? He doesn't say anything for a little bit, so is he still lying down here? It's possible he goes out at this stage direction. I don't know yet, because we haven't read further forward. Okay, let's move on then. So ignorance, I'm going to say, is the one who's standing at the door, but I could be wrong. So ignorance has appeared, talking to Covetous.
Come, Sir Nicholas. Come, Sir Nicholas. Come, Sir Nicholas. Come, jam faint baggis. Would I get a little bit but more bum?
Excellence take thee. Hast thou not enough yet?
No, I could drink a gallon and never eat a bit.
Come in, you knave's name, you must expound and mutter.
I can expound good ale from fair water.
Tush, fellow, thou must expound a piece of scripture.
I could do it as well as any bishop, I am sure. I've spouted with the Genovians 20 on a row.
And thou wert too good for them all, I trow.
Was I? Ye faith that I was. You shall understand with a piece of Latin I set 'em all one dry land.
And I pray thee heartily, what was it? Let me hear.
Thou shalt, if you wilt promise to give me a spot of beer. Magistorum clericum incipem meorum. Totus ferus, altus jungus et oldus. Multus numerus et cuc feorum. Pic cursus, ominus argentus, shores and bullus. Let me see what they are all able to say to this.
For out of doubt, a worthy piece of learning it is.
A man may as much edifine out of my Latin take, as ye may out of a poscius it may many ministers make.
Even as thou sayest, in faith much of a kind, for they place the scriptures as feathers in the wind. Peace, body of me, our master is asleep.
Mary, it was time indeed for us silence to keep.
I'm just going to pause us there just to briefly take in some of Ignorance's dialogue. My rough understanding of what the Latin is doing is he's just constantly contradicting himself.
Yes.
It's complete cod Latin.
Yeah. But it's also the fact that it's also contradictory in terms of any sense that might be there is constantly just dances over contradictions.
Yeah.
I mean, it's for the sound of the words rather than any meaning, I think.
Yeah.
It's playing up to the name, ignorance. You
Yes.
know, he's using the words because it's in his mind or her mind, they're big. They're big words. You know.
Makes you more powerful.
Yeah.
Mm.
He doesn't know what any of them means, but he just likes using them.
Yes, the reference to the Genevians, we're talking here about Calvinists, which is topical reference now lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cut.
Or just say very quickly. I mean, Covetousness' reply out of all this, for a doubt a worthy piece of learning it is. I mean, even if the audience doesn't understand what's going on in that speech, that should signify you're talking nonsense. Great. I mean, the thing is, he hasn't been given a name yet. Nobody in the audience knows who Ignorance is yet. So there's a bit of an issue there.
But in fact, by the way you say the Latin, it can be quite clear.
Oh, yeah.
It's sort of Brutus sic in omnibus, Caesar sic in tram. I mean, it's that sort of Latin.
Nilla legitimatatum carborundum.
Well, it's worse than that because, multus navoribus, pic persus omnius.
Yeah.
And, incip maiorum. We're in another world here, but a world that would be very familiar, especially if this is a school play.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I think that's the element. It's the kind of thing you should be able to pick up. This kind of talk.
Yeah.
So yes, he's still asleep. He's still asleep. Is worldly man. Let us move forward. So worldly man seems to obviously wake up, unless he's saying this unconscious.
Oh, I would if I could, but now it is too late. Hold thy peace, I pray thee, and do me no more rate.
To whom speak you, sir? To him or to me?
There is no remedy now, man, and that thou dost see.
Fashion of me, sirrah, he dreameth, methink.
Is there no remedy, but to hell I must needs sink?
For my life devotion, he's haunted with the mare.
Nay, it's some worser thing, truly, I fear.
I hold a crown, he is not very well.
So methinks, for he dreameth of going to hell.
We will wake him out of that troublesome sleep.
Good Lord, seest thou not? Behold how he doth weep.
How do you, good master? Is he asleep or awake?
Oh, good Lord, how my heart doth ache. Oh, sick, never so sick in my life, therefore. Good Lord, policy, I think I shall never go home more.
Marry, God forbid. Where is your grief?
All the parts of my body wanteth relief. Oh, devotion, I have such pains in my head that truly, I wish myself even dead.
Methought you dreamed, for to yourself you did talk.
Indeed, sir, I dreamed I had a great journey to walk. Oh, what great pains and torments I thought myself in, lying in fire which to burn did never lin. And methought before me the plague of God did stand, ready to strike me with a sword in his hand. And ever I asked him what was the cause, he answered that I was a transgressor of God's laws. But Lord, how sick I am, and how terrible is my pain. No place in my body, but sickness therein doth reign. Lock not these foolish dreams, policy, my friend.
Tush a straw, upon them never set your mind. He that to dreams giveth any confidence or trust, without doubt very unquietly live he must.
Sick, sick, sick. Oh, my head, oh, my back.
What would you have, sir? Tell us what you lack.
Is it not best that I call hither a physician, that he may of your sickness declare your disposition?
Oh, yeah. Do so, good devotion. I pray thee, devotion. God's blessing on thy heart, for thy witty motion. Depart, I pray thee, with as much haste as may be.
It shall not be long, or we be here. You shall see.
And ignorance exits.
Policy sick, never so sick. Oh, hold my head. Oh, sirrah, what shall become of all my goods when I am dead?
Dead? Body of me, do you reckon to die this year? Hold your peace, I warrant you, you need not fear. Lo, see you now how the worldly man showeth his kind, as sick as he is, on his goods is all his mind.
Oh, policy, if I might not die, what a fellow would I be? In all this country there should be none like me. Sirrah, what a godly turret have I made in my hall. But yet my banqueting house pleaseth me best of all. Oh, alas, what a pang is this at my heart!
Oh, body of me, aquavitae, vinegar! Needs help, he will depart. Saint Uncumber be with us, and the blessing of Saint Anthony. Help, help, Our Lady of Walsingham and all her holy company.
I'm
Why?
just going to pause us there. Always nice to hear from St. Uncumber. And Our Lady of Walsingham. I would assume by this point Lady of Walsingham is defunct. I could be wrong.
Pretty much.
I don't think it's immediately taken out by the Reformation, but it's by this point, 30 odd years later. It was a big pilgrimage site, and all those old. It turns up in John Haywood a few times. There's places where you're going to buy dodgy relics and things like that. So these are nice little callbacks that I always like to see. Covetousness seems to have an aside at one point, at least. I love that, hold your peace, and then to the audience, lo, see you not how the worldly man showeth his kind, as sick as he is. All he thinks of is his goods. So he's not quite gone all the way as the worldly man. He's been terrified by Marley, but he still needs the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future to go all the way and open his window and ask what day it is to the small boy outside. So maybe we'll go full Christmas Carol yet. Maybe we'll get there.
Yes.
He's not very well.
What is very interesting is, obviously, with all this talk of plague, and for the benefit of future listeners, we are now in early August 2020. And what is interesting for us is that there is not, that I have heard, any sense that the plague has come upon us because of our sin.
Us now, are we talking about?
Which makes us very different from here, where plague is very much regarded as someone must have done something wrong or God would not have sent the plague.
I think, to be fair, we're probably not listening to the right radio stations, Helen. I think some places somewhere have possibly gone with us. This is an interpretation.
I'm pretty sure there was an article I read about either a priest or preacher, at least, claiming that COVID-19 is something punishment for the LGBTQ community.
Mm.
And he's since tested positive, which is quite funny.
Oh, well, you know, Hurricane Katrina was the same. Hurricanes are caused by, you know, all sorts of lifestyle choices. So, you
Well,
know.
Brighton had better watch out then.
I should point out for the listener that was an ironic comment, and it does not reflect a belief by this institution that in any way your lifestyle choice will cause hurricanes, plagues, or any other catastrophe.
I was going to tag another sarcastic comment on there, but I'm going to restrain myself.
Yes. Okay. Any additional thoughts about Worldly Man's sickness? I like it, you know, his head, and then it's his back. His back goes. I mean, what could be worse?
Maybe he just needs a massage.
Maybe he does. Unfortunately, he's going to get a physician, and if nothing is going to kill you, a physician probably will. So, the stage direction, next stage direction says enter ignorance, but it with physician in tow almost certainly. So, yes. Oh, I've just noticed that spelling. Oh, that's good. It's got a good name. So, enter ignorance and the physician.
Where? How now? What's the matter? Out of the policy.
Would you me help? He's gone, else that verily.
Stand away, foolish knave, and let Maester Physician come.
Maester Flebishitten. I don't know how to pronounce that.
What? Flebby Shitten?
Flebishitten, is that?
Is it Flebishitten?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one. Master Flebishitten, should I say Master Physician? I pray you look into his bum.
By your leave, by maesters, methinks it is no time to jest. Stand back, I pray you, and do not me molest. Fashion of me, maesters, count you this a play? One of you quickly bring me hither a key, some drink, aqua vitae, if it may be got. With speed, let us have some drink that is hot.
Nay, I told you before, he was past remedy.
No, there is life in him, yet I see verily. Run, I pray you, and fetch such things as we lack. Some drink and a pillow to lay at his back.
Here is drink, and all things ready at hand.
Give me room, I pray you, out of my light stand.
Jesu mercy, lo, how busy Master Physician is.
And Master Physician, be busy and draw him as though he were at dying.
Here you, sir. Is it not best you look on his piss?
Good fellow, be content, I pray thee heartily. Thou art disposed to jest, methink verily.
Good fellow, good man, Warble. I will make you change your note before that you for your labour you get the value of a groat.
What? How, worldly man? In God's name I say, look up for the love of God. Do not like a beast decay.
Who's there? What art thou that callest me?
Marry, Sir Master Flebishitten, physician is come, and it was he.
Oh, sirs, I fear all this labour is in vain. You might have let me go. I was well out of my pain. Oh, Master Physician, how think you? What say you to me?
By my truth, there is no remedy but one that I can see. You must put your will to God's will. I can say no more.
Why, foolish physician, he knew that well enough before.
What sayest thou? Is there no remedy but I must die?
No, sir, by my truth, as far as I can see or espy, God may do much, for he is omnipotent, but you are past help in this world in man's judgment.
What the devil dost thou here? Then get thee away.
Depart, physician, and thou hast no more to say.
I trust then, sir, you will content me for my painstaking.
You shall have a new life at the maid's next bacon.
Go thy ways, I pray thee, and trouble not my mind. These news, to give anything in my heart I cannot find.
Good Lord, have mercy on thee. Belike it is too late to amend. In wickedness thou hast lived, even so thou wilt end. Gentlemen, I trust you will not see me lose my labour.
Gentlemen, go as you came. You are not so much in my favour.
A common saying indeed, that is like unto like. A wicked M for wicked servants, God must needs strike.
Yeah, so M will be master for wicked servants. And isn't it? Yeah, the physician wants his money, and it's like later, we'll pay you later. Yeah, that will definitely happen. I love so much of what the physician says. It's like the physician is they're trying. Are they trying to pretend that the physician is actually a real person they've plucked out from somewhere? Because of that one random line about saying that you count you this a play, like they've actually gone out and got a real doctor. Logic, or is he just saying stop mucking about?
I think he's saying stop mucking about.
Yeah, that's a shame. I liked that as an option. A typical physician upset, or the expectation of a physician of you're going to look at his waters, you're going to examine his piss, which is basically what every doctor does. That's just basically starting point for all medicine is to check the urine. And look at his bum, which is also, for men above a certain age, this is basically the inevitability of any doctor's visit, is the inevitable massaging of the prostate. Okay, so Helen.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting one is the play with the name of the physician, because you've got Precipitation, which is funny in itself. But you've also got the root of that in phlebology, bloodletting.
Yeah. It is a logical name to be twisted in that way. It's yeah.
But I mean, it's possibly almost more of an academic pun than a common language one, I would have thought.
I still think in my head I know of phlebotomy as when going for blood tests. I think it's just about got logic.
I'm not sure how it would run with the average playgoer of the period.
No idea.
They were not as uninterested and they knew an awful lot about an awful lot.
I'm not suggesting that it were, but that how common that usage would have been, I don't know.
I think they
it's
would have
here,
got
so
it.
yeah. I love the idea that the physician does all sort of busy work when examining the body as well. You know, draw him. I wonder what he's draw. You know, are they doing a bloodletting live on stage? I wouldn't put it past them. Just sitting there. And then the thing is, he's going to die. Where's my money? So again, good doctor in there.
Yeah. Well, they certainly demanded their fee whether the patient lived or died.
Well, I'd never make any money otherwise.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got a number of cases where the widow is being chased by her late husband's physician for the cures that didn't work.
Well, if you're in a health system like in America, that's basically the thing you get upon the death of your beloved relative is the bill, it's quite depressing actually as a way that works. It's quite harming, especially when it's usually quite a lot.
It's also because you usually, I mean, I only had one experience in the ER, but I imagine even if the patient died, you were still basically asked to get the check and pay cash.
Oh yeah, no, they will. Literally, people whose husbands or wives have just died. Literally, the administrator, you just get handed the bill. Okay, you may then hand it over to your insurer, but you will be that happens a lot because they need their money. So again, modern parallel can be found there. Coming to England soon. He said depressed. Okay. Any additional thoughts about the physician before we go into the final thing? Okay, so he's been told he's going to die, and exit physician. Worldly man is not very happy, I think.
Oh, sirs, is there no remedy? What shall I say? It's not best I set all things at a stay.
Yes. Oh, sorry, love.
That's all right. Yes, make sure work of that while you be here.
It is time indeed, for death in you doth appear.
Once you know that I'm greatly in debt, and now every one will strive their own for to get. Bid my wife, therefore, get a letter of administration as soon as she may, and then as she listeth, my creditors she may pay. Indeed, I have enough to pay every man his. But, my lady, I cannot tell what mine own shall miss. Commend me to her, and bid her take no thought, but in any wise letter, as near as she can, forgo naught.
By my truth, this is wonderfully well invented. As you have said, I warrant you it shall be frequented.
Your mind in this thing undoubted is not ill. Now, as for other things, it is best you make a will.
It shall be devotion, even as thou hast said, right quickly. For my life, I am afraid. Must I needs die? Oh, must I needs away?
Here is ink and paper. What shall I write?
In the name, first of all, do thou indict.
In the name. In the name. What more?
Of what more?
And falls down.
Body of me, down with the paper, away with the ink.
Passion of me, Covetous, he is gone, methink. Hold him. Let's see if any life in him be.
Nay, hold him that will, the devil hold him for me.
Passion of me, he is dead. How shall we do now?
Canst thou not tell? No more can I make God a vow. Sarah, here was a trim end that he did make. Thou never heardst him the name of God in his mouth take.
Thus, God a straw, his mind was other ways occupied. All his study was who should have his goods when he died. Indeed, all men may perceive his mind to be corrupt and ill, but God would not suffer him to name it in his will. A strange matter, when men have given over God, they may sure to be scourged with his sharp rod.
This is the end always where I begin, for I am the root of all wickedness and sin. I never rest to teach and instruct men to evil, till I bring them both body and soul to the devil. As we have done these worldly men here, as you see, come, therefore, ignorance, wait thou upon me. The devil and I, thou shalt see, will not leave, till we have made the greatest part to us to cleave. Come, let us go hence, here is no more to be said. Farewell, my masters, our parts we have played.
Just briefly pausing there. Yeah, he dies. He dies. That's sad. And Covetousness again gets this sort of semi-assigned to the audience of going, well, this is what we do. And he died without a word. All he was interested in was his money, who was getting his money. God is not going to be involved, and it's doomed for going to. Sadly, he didn't go full Scrooge and didn't go all the way. He's continued to still be obsessed with his money. Helen.
Just a quick point on the will. The early modern will would begin, in the name of God, Amen. That is the standard, absolutely bog standard. Every single will you see starts in the name of God, Amen.
So
then
he doesn't get to it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He would then say, I, worldly man, etc., identifying himself. And the first item was always, I bequeath my soul to Almighty God.
Ah, yes, of course.
That is such an important point to this scene, because it is the legal framing which would have saved his soul as well as his property.
Yes.
And he doesn't get to that line. He literally dies just before he says God.
Yes. but the next word would have been God.
Mm. Oh, right. That really does make sense, and brings that whole little bit alive as well, actually, in a way that I don't, we got it, but we didn't get it, if that makes sense. So that's that's good.
And that would, to take up Alan's point, everybody would know that.
Yes. That's something we don't have today, so we have to figure out some way of getting that across. Another thing to get across, or a question, is Ignorance, who seems to have been given his false name of Devotion, but Ignorance never gets introduced. I don't think anyone's ever said his name. I could be wrong, but I don't think anyone said his name.
No one has.
I kind of feel we're missing something here. Maybe just a little bit, just telling us who the hell he is, because he doesn't really play any part. He could, I think, in the production, I'm thinking possibly just one of the other vices we met earlier, because we've met them rather than having a different person, because I don't think it's necessary.
I mean, we talked about how Precipitation is weird for vice, I suppose. So I wonder if it could just be Ignorance from the get-go, because he seems to be Covetous' sidekick.
Yeah.
Is it?
Especially from the language, again, he's quite forthcoming for somebody who's a vice. So yeah, he would probably be up there with Covetous somewhere.
Yeah, because we didn't really get much of an exposition of what all of the vices mean, particularly. I mean, we vaguely mentioned it yesterday, but temerity. It's not exactly up there in the 7 deadly sins, is it? Valentina.
I mean, is it me? I'm getting confused, or is that because I think Covetous at a certain point sends Temerity to find Ignorance. That's where the whole thing with Ignorance comes about.
Ah, so he was mentioned in passing earlier, but
because it's like his uncle or something like that.
Yeah, but it's not followed.
But it's not shown. No, it's not shown.
No.
And also Temerity doesn't come back.
No. Well, that's the thing, is that, we have that nice vice scene earlier, but because of the doubling, you can't have all the vices turning back up again. So it sort of has to be dropped, and it could have been, this is how it was originally written. I'm not saying that I'm not, in a sense, detecting a missing scene. It's just there's almost a missing follow through of thought, if that makes sense. Because it might be costuming for Ignorance is clear enough then, because we have Ignorance in lots of other plays, so there might be more of a convention that this is what Ignorance looks like. Because it could be a fool type figure, and costuming could convey that without needing a scene.
Yeah.
But there is that slight sense that we need to perhaps tidy some of these edges here, because it's slightly unsatisfactory. Otherwise, because I'm really enjoying this.
Yes, I must say I'm surprised that the worldly man is not converted and made a good end, or converted and continues to live. And I'm surprised it isn't the Scrooge narrative.
20 years earlier, it probably would have been. There's something hardens around the 1550s. And we've had a few of these plays, Sascha might have been there for some of them in the evenings, where it suddenly goes hardcore Calvinist. And it is. It goes hardcore and just goes, you did something wrong, you're now fucked for all eternity. And there is no forgiveness, just goes out the window.
But that's not... Oh, never mind. You don't want to know about double predestination. Trust me, you don't.
But it does seem to be a trend. It does seem to be something that starts sweeping across these kind of morality plays. Satan turns up at the end and does things a lot more often. Alan, I saw a hand.
Yeah, I mean, it is effectively, I think, the extreme Protestant view that once you made your bed, there is no way back. As a contrast to the indulgences and so on, where there was a route back if you got the resources to do it,
or if you repented.
Yes, which he did not do. He didn't do the words.
I mean, the sacrament of penance has disappeared.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've been promised the appearance of Satan, and we'll run this through to the end. So after Satan, we effectively get some return visits from various characters. I don't think it's going to make a vast amount of difference identifying who various people are. We're going to have the return of Contentation, the Heavenly Man. Enough will turn up. Rest will turn up. I think many of them will identify themselves in their speeches. But before all that happens, here entereth Satan.
Oh, all is mine, all his, mine. My kingdom increaseth every hour and day. Oh, how they seek my majesty divine. To come to me they labour all they may. The world man, quoth he, nay, the devilish man that. For more wickedness and mischief than he did use. I myself indeed never devise can. Oh, at his jolly wisdom I needs must muse. How cunningly put he his money to usury, yea, and that without offence of any law. He was not to learn any kind of bribery, whereby wicked gains to him he might draw. An abominable drunkard, a stinking letterer, a filthy sodomite, a corrupt conscience within, a privy slanderer, and a subtle murderer. To be short, a very dunghill and sink of sin. Oh, my boy, covetousness! I may thank thee of all this. Thou knowest him in all mischief and vice. Therefore shalt thou be sure to have my bliss. For above all other thou indeed art most wise. Thou teachest the worldly man a leasemonger to be, to oppress the poor, and of his riches him to defraud, wickedly to use the law he learned of thee. Therefore indeed thou art worthy of much laud. All you worldly men that in your riches do trust, be merry and jocund, build palaces, and make lusty cheer. Put your money to usury, let it not lie and rust. Occupy yourselves in my laws whilst ye be here. Spare not, nor care not, what mischief you frequent. Use drunkenness, deceit, take others men's wives. Pass of nothing. 1 hour is enough to repent of all the wickedness you have done in your lives. Oh, if you will thus after my laws behave, you shall have all things as this worldly man had. Be bold of me what you will to crave. Doubt you not, but with you I will play the loving lad. Yea, and after death I will provide a place for you in my kingdom, forever you to reign. You shall fare no worse than doth mine own grace, that is to lie burning forever in pain. Come on, mine own boy, go with me. Thou hast served me duly, and hatest me never. Therefore now for thy pains rewarded shalt thou be, in everlasting fire that burneth forever.
And because the devil is a clean and tidy womble, he bears him upon his back to clear the stage. Thank you very much, Satan. Useful structurally. I'm just going to very briefly pause here just to suggest, the best modern context to perform this would be, say, an end-of-year party for Goldman Sachs. I think that speech would go down well, really well. Any merchant bankers, any big wealthy institution with, it's the kind of thing the Illuminati would love to have at their final end of do bash. Yeah, he doesn't. He just basically just goes.
And they would enjoy it.
That they would as
They
well.
would.
Other financial institutions are available.
Absolutely.
Available for weddings, bar mitzvahs, parties.
And general corruption.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's it's the way that Satan's just going, do all that money lending stuff, do all that stuff. It's great. You can always repent at the last minute. It'll be fine. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You can outwit me. You can do better than him. Clear the stage. Okay.
And
so,
I assume that the hymn he's bearing out is the worldly man.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
clearing his body. I'm going to assume that he sort of does some sort of make him stand up so he can get him over his back rather than go down and pull him from the ground, because yeah, that would be hard. That'd be hard.
You can always drag him out.
Bearing him upon his back is a very
Yeah.
important Satan-y thing. So, and we have that in other plays as well, from about the same period. It's clearly a very enjoyable bit of stage business that everyone enjoys.
It's what the devil does.
Exactly. And yes, we've collected quite a few. I must add to the Satan playlist. There is one. There are Satan and demon playlists. So I will add this too. There are a lot of Satan appearances. He's good value. Good value. It's definitely going to be a roundup show of Satan at some point. Anyway, let's go through final speeches. There's a whole load of speeches, starting with Contentation, Heavenly Man Enough, etc. So let us rattle through these.
He that toucheth pitch shall be defiled with the same, and he that keepeth company with those that be vicious shall at length grow like unto the same, working things wicked and pernicious. Even so it is also to be associate with the righteous. For he that haunteth and keepeth honest company cannot choose but live according to the same actually. Example, the Jews being conversant with the heathens, drunk of their suspicion and idolatry, and by that means fell from true God of heaven to worshipping of blocks, which was mere blasphemy. Likewise it is that this day verily Christian men are seduced by keeping of ill company, and brought from the very truth to hypocrisy. And who are those that are thus deceived? Even such as are not content when to are well, they be not thankful for that they have received, but ever they think still more and more to excel. Contentation from their minds they do expel, and under the pretence of reason, wit, and policy, they covet to run to mischief and sin headily.
Like as gold and silver is tried in the fire, so faithful men in the furnace of adversity be proved. The heavenly does not live as flesh and lust doth desire, but heavenly things of heavenly men be loved. With no kind of temptation he must be moved, be it sickness or poverty, or whatsoever God is sent. The heavenly must take it patiently, and be therewith content.
Enough is as good as a feast, where contentation doth dwell. For where he remaineth is the Spirit of God with rest. The unquiet mind of the covetous doth grudge and swell, and to live with enough he doth abhor and detest. The greedy grasping of covetousness doth him so molest, that to be rich be his whole mind doth set. Be all his whole mind doth set, nothing regarding how the same he doth get.
Pythagoras saith that a man of covetous desire cannot be contented, neither with abundance. For the more he hath, the more still he doth require. Wherefore such persons provoke God to vengeance. Example of the worldly man, late of remembrance, whose wicked life offended the Lord so exceedingly that his heavy plagues came upon him suddenly.
God grant his end example may be to all men how their riches they shall use. Make not that thy God, which should be servant unto thee, for in so doing thou dost it greatly abuse. I pray God, I say, that our covetous we may refuse, and one of us to love another, for that pleaseth God best. So shall we be sure to inherit the good land of rest.
By God's great goodness I am sent to thee. Rest is my name, wherein the heavenly shall abide. Happy are those persons that come unto me, for I, being present, all troubles I do divide. With joys I am adorned, yea, on every side, which are prepared for the heavenly, from the beginning, and given unto them for a reward of their good living.
Thanks be given unto thee, O Father omnipotent. Thy mercy's laws, not thy deserts truly, hath caused these joys to me to be sent. Grant me grace, therefore, to praise thy name duly. Thy goodness appeareth to me every day newly. While breath and life prolong my days, my mouth shall not cease thy holy name to praise.
Enough is as good as a feast. Here let us stay. We have troubled our audience. That let us remember. Let us conclude, therefore. But first let us pray that it will please God in mercy our good mistress to tender, our faith established, wherein we be slender, that at the last day when the trump shall blow, for to be heavenly men, the Lord may us all know.
First, let us call to God for Jesus Christ's sake, long to preserve Elizabeth, our most noble queen. Good Lord, grant her highness the heavenly path to take, and that all by ways of her highness may be seen. Increase her wealth, prolong her health, preserve her life, that long she may rule this realm without debate or strife.
And having praised the Queen, the play ends. I like that enough goes. We have troubled our audience. You know, both in the sense of, you know, maybe we've just gone on for a little bit long here, but also in the just sense of we may have disturbed you. I quite like the possibility of that. Also, it's, you know, our good mistress to tender, our faith to establish. There's a little bit of prodding of the Queen, perhaps, there to say, you know, remember which side you're on. Just remember, you know, hint, 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 hint. Otherwise, not the most exciting part of the play, has to be said. There's, you know, might keep some of that, but I almost prefer Satan closing the play myself. I kind of, a lot of nodding heads there. I mean, I think it could be quite beautiful, and it nicely brings everything down. Maybe have some music, but it doesn't excite me. Doesn't excite me. So, thoughts about the play overall? Now that we come to the end, we've all been playing, broadly speaking, the same through line of characters that, to a degree, logically you might have played. Some changes in doubling, but otherwise there. So, general thoughts?
My first thought is that it is a very male play. Obviously, a lot of the vices are effectively sexless, but nevertheless, I have a very strong feeling. I mean, I was quite startled when I discovered that the worldly man had a wife, because she doesn't get a mention, still less an appearance. I mean, there is an enormous absence of female characters here.
I mean, in structural terms, they don't have much time to introduce the wife, because he doesn't get married until the last sort of third of the play. He has abjured a wife at the beginning, so there isn't room to introduce her necessarily, unless you make her ignorance. But that doesn't exactly help. But I think you're absolutely right. There aren't really. It is quite blokey, isn't it? You know, it's worldly man, heavenly man. Satan tends to be in that view. Other thoughts or continuations?
I must admit, my thought was the one that you've come up with, that you could make this work actually quite nicely of closing it with Satan's exit. I don't think the Piraculi after that actually adds much.
Well, it's just to ram home the message, isn't it? Just repeat it. We get that in moral plays quite a lot. And this multi-voice, you know, it's like all the cast come back on wearing, you know, one of the nice characters that they played, and go, look, we're good, everything's good, if you're good, kind of thing. Why does no one step in when I do that? Okay. Yeah, I know. I also see that structurally you could get this down to a smaller cast size than actually the front of page suggestion of 7, I think, is badly structured, and I don't think is right. I think you could get this down, and if you used masks, you could get it down even lower. Actually, I'm quite keen on this idea. I'm not usually a mask person for plays, but for this one, I'm feeling there's a real possibility for that.
I mean, you need what, minimum 5. I think the busiest scene has got 5 characters.
Well, almost. I can see ways of getting it down to 4, but that would involve some jiggery pokery.
But if you end it with Satan, you can certainly do 5. Because I mean, rest is rest and enough. We're in the same scene there, but
yeah. But yes, I don't. And even there, you could happily move that to somebody else. You could make that work.
And some of the vice characters are effectively the same.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think there's some Elijahing that you could do. To go further than just simply adjust the doubling, is to slightly adjust the text, because I don't think. I think you need more than 2 vices on stage at one point, but I don't think you need 4.
No.
I don't think structurally it changes that scene very much. It may slightly change the dynamic of the semi-fight scene, but I think you could do that with 3 rather than 4. But I mean, even with 4, you could still do it, and it'd still double perfectly well. It's like they don't know what to do with the Heavenly Man after that opening gambit, because it's like, well, we need to have a name check and pop in, but that's sort of it. And enough isn't on for very long, really, or doesn't do very much when on.
No.
So yeah, I think there's this is scalable in a way that I quite like.
And there are a number of little cameos, like the physician and the tenant, and so everybody gets their little character part.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is a thing that the prophet, the plague, and the physician could all be the same person if you really wanted to go extreme. It could be that's the gag, is that it's the same person, just quickly with a ridiculously over the top costume change. It's doable that way. So yeah, I just don't buy the doubling scheme on the frontis page. I think
you could almost use the Commedia mask for the physician.
Well, I think Commedia is a good route. I think that would cross over quite nicely. I'm talking half masks. I wouldn't be thinking full mask. Right.
I was thinking plague mask for a second.
Yeah. That's the one I meant.
It's not far off. Yeah, the doctor mask in Commedia is basically a plague mask.
I thought you have the lower half free, which is kind of the opposite of what all of us are doing now.
Oh yeah, well yes, because it's a half mask, but it's the same shape. It's a little big long beak, nose kind of thing. But variations do exist. There we are. Demonstration model. If I'd known, I'd have brought mine out of storage.
Mine is somewhere as well.
And yes, grotesquerie varies depending on taste, as it were.
It works if you do it sideways.
Yeah, it's not so good on Zoom. 2 dimensions, it's not so good at. Yeah.
That's good.
Am I remembering it right? The longer the nose, the more stupid the character.
Broadly. No, just there are things to do with individual characters and things, but I think you have to depend on who made the mask and what the mask is doing. I don't think you can be quite so. Masks will tend to have 2 faces.
That could have an interesting link into Pinocchio.
Nah.
Anyway,
just a thought.
Don't start confusing my culture.
Yeah, let's just briefly pull it back. Final thoughts on the play, then. Alan, do you have any final thoughts about Enough is as good as a feast?
I think actually, if one cuts it after Satan's exit, I think it works with very little intervention needed.
Sascha, final thoughts?
Again, it works with very little intervention needed, and I think what's really, really good about this play is that you can have a lot of amazing bits of fun with it. You can make it serious, you can make it big on the comedy. It's got a mixture of everything going on there, and we definitely need to bring in more women to this, I think, just because the vices, as our lovely historian Helen said earlier, they are calling for it. But I'm wondering if we ever did this, whether it'd be interesting to experiment with maybe making the worldly man a worldly woman, see where that goes. I don't know. It could be quite interesting to experiment with, I think. It's a good play.
I mean, just in general policy, we would inevitably offer parts for women. We wouldn't make them all men. Whether we gender the characters that way is a question to be asked later. But yeah, there are roles available. I wouldn't start from the principle of going, right, they're all men, so let's just cast men, because I don't do that. Tamara, final thoughts?
I'm there with everyone. I think end it with Satan. just a little more nihilistic than they did, perhaps, but I think it works much better because it's almost this warning to the rich that, especially nowadays, the things that are brewing in society, they might need some warning sometimes. Right? Yes. I also, the one thing that I keep thinking about when it comes to doing it and hopefully at some point putting it on a stage is that everyone's going to think of COVID-19 when God's plague comes on and how to deal with that. But that's just me.
Yeah, all plagues that turn up in early modern drama will get that little face mask sheen added to it. Valentina, final thought.
I'm very much with everybody else. I think most things have been said. I would say, yeah, ending with Satan. Also, I mean, very good omens ending it with Satan. Just like Satan comes in at the end, does his speech, that's it. Yeah, it's something that we recognize even now. But yeah, it's my thing would be like, how political modern politics can you make it? Or what kind of lines can you not cross?
Lovely. Helen, final thoughts?
Well, I'm not with anybody on ending it with Satan, in that I think there's some very interesting stuff that comes in afterwards. I mean, I'm quite interested in where this is placed theologically, because it's certainly not Calvinist in any way. It is very definitely Protestant. It's quite an interesting balance that they're hitting here. But for me, yeah, it's got to be done in a completely modern context. I think the idea of masks is brilliant, but they should be of people that the audience recognize. And I think you've just got to risk imprisonment.
Excellent. And on that note, that closes the session quite well. I have to say, I'm always slightly in two minds about leaping to cuts at this stage. So I certainly would say in rehearsal, we'd play around with the close of the play and give it its due, and see whether we keep some of it, if not all of it. It's like also the prologue. I really like the prologue, but then I also wonder in a production, is it the kind of thing that we would keep in its entirety? It's the thing is, this is all material, and sometimes to save the play, you have to sacrifice some of it. And sometimes not. Sometimes you can just give it its head. I've enjoyed it. I've actually enjoyed most of William Rager's plays up to a point. I think there's a lot of good in there. As usual, he suffers from the problem of time, and the conventions that he's playing with do not always follow through perfectly, but I think in terms of some of his stage business is absolutely fabulous. I really like that Doctor. I really like the Satan speech. I really like a lot of the comic business. So either in whole or in part, we're definitely coming back to some of this again. All that remains is for me to thank all the readers today for their time, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.